on our ongoing quest to analyze these economy cards, we've landed on my personal favorite, Coinmaster. Now, I hope that this pays off because I use it at almost all my decks. What does the math say? So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Paragon guide. I am Sylphin. We are looking at Coinmaster. It's a 1 vitality growth card that has pretty cool passive, really not going to lie. It's called Wealthy. Gain 8 bonus damage every 10 seconds. Increases, though, to 16 when out of combat. It's very simple. Every 10-second interval from the moment you equip it, you gain 16 gold when you're out of combat, and 8 bonus gold when you are in combat. Now, getting it... Combat is a really weird thing. Combat is basically when you attack. It doesn't even mean if you deal damage, believe it or not. If you are attacking or when you receive any damage, you are in combat. Now, you have to not do or receive damage for about 4 seconds. It's actually really hard to find concrete source, but it looks like it's 4 seconds afterwards. It's a surprising amount. It's a surprisingly long time. So you have to kind of consider that, 4 seconds on either side, or sorry, on the back half of whenever you attack or receive damage, you're still considered in combat. That leaves a kind of 5-6 second window in there where you can actually be in combat, harass people, and there are some gameplay scenarios where you can really utilize that in the safe lane as a support. Once you receive that Coinmaster gold, then maybe you can attack in the off lane, or in the off lane, the same thing. You can kind of do that in the mid lane. It's a bit more tough to kind of stay out there because you need those last hits all the time, but I don't know, if it lines up properly, you can really make sure that you're out of combat. Now, when we look at the math behind it, I had to do it fairly interestingly. So, across the top here is percent in combat. Percent in combat. What this means is you're just simply in combat a percentage amount of the time. So, say, you're out of combat, percentage in combat, remember, so 0% would be 100% out of combat. So you're never in combat. That's the best way of putting it. You're never in combat for 1 minute, you receive 96 gold. Really that simple. If you're, if you're 0% in combat for 10 minutes, you get 960 gold. I think you kind of understand what this is saying. If you're 50% in combat and 50% out of combat for 1 minute, you get 72 versus 96. And as you can see, if you're 100%, in combat, you get 48 instead of the 96. You see that the more you're in combat, the less and less you get gold. So it's very kind of logarithmic in the other senses. The more and more you're out of combat, the gold plummets down that you get in return. So you're incentivized to stay out of combat quite a bit. Now, guys, it's really quite simple. I just kind of put the minutes over here. You can see 1 to 40 minutes way down here, and yeah, 0 to 100% in combat. What I've done is I've highlighted where you get the first 1,000 gold or attribute point. All of this gold here, yes, you can treat that as maybe, when you go back to base, you could have gotten a attribute point with Coinmaster, where if you didn't have it, a little tiny bit, you wouldn't have, and you would have been 1 attribute point away, but you can upgrade in base anyways, and it's probably less likely for you to, that 1 attribute point, to actually get a card, but not really in the early game, because there's so many things. There's a lot of considerations here, but Coinmaster, personally, I think it's looking actually pretty darn good. If you're never in combat when you receive gold from Coinmaster, that's the key, you basically get an attribute point by the 10-minute mark. That's not bad. That's not bad considering it's a 1 attribute point cost card. I mean, it's pretty good. Like, there's literally nothing to lose. I mean, if you're not using, like, if there could have been a card that could use in the first place, I suppose. But you know, if you're 10% in combat, that's you know, every couple minutes or every 2 minutes. What would that be? Every 2 minutes, 1 1/5 of your gold that you get is 8 instead of 16. So really really infrequently. And as you can see, I mean, really up to 50% in combat, it just takes 10 to 14 minutes to get your first 1,000 gold. I think that's pretty darn good for a one attribute point cost card. Now, as we continue down here, you can really see it drops off. You can see that the yellow drops off pretty dramatically as you go more and more in combat. So people like the carry that's always last hitting, you know, harassing the off laner at the appropriate times. People like the mid laner, even if they're really harassing a lot. People like the jungler, they're all pretty much always in combat. Those roles, I mean, they're going to be really down here in how often they are in combat. Now, I also highlighted the second CP, pre-version 42, the second attribute point. And as you can see, this really starts to differ significantly. You know, here at the 21-minute mark, if you're never in combat when you receive the gold, that's at the 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 28 minutes, and then it just kind of, you can see that if you're always in combat, it's past the 40-minute mark. So really, it's obviously meant for, you know, 0% in combat when you get the gold to about 50, above 50, 60. So really, if you can keep it on for the first little bit, this is my opinion. You know, if you can keep it on for the first little bit and not be in combat, hey, you get 1,000 gold. You get an attribute point for one cost card, just for having it sit there in the early game. Sounds pretty good to me. Now, what are some factual conclusions we can draw from this? Well, 1,000 gold is gained through Coinmaster at the 10 to 13, 14-minute mark for being 0 to 40% in combat. So remember, 0 to 40% in combat when you get when you actually get that goal. For that one, remember, every 10 seconds, by the 10th second, if you're in combat at that, there you go. So remember, you can be in combat for the first 5 almost seconds after that. You can be doing stuff. It's just gotta be careful, because being in combat, there's like 4-second delay. Seems a little long, to be honest with you. Now, the 2,000 gold is gained at the 21 to 23-minute mark if you are in combat 0 to 20% of the time. I think it's 24, 25 minutes for the 30 and 40% of the time. So, hey, if you are playing the economy game and you have this on, maybe with something else, and you're just going for one high-cost card, and you can just keep Coinmaster pretty much the whole game, just get it sit there, especially as a support. Hey, it might actually work to get you a few attribute points. And hey, for one cost card, that's the biggest thing. Like 2,000 gold by the end of the game, really not much. But I mean, for a one cost card, it's pretty good. And gold gain is reduced severely when in combat more than 50% of the time. That's kind of makes sense because of how it works. So really, it drops off significantly when you are in combat. Just know that. And wealthy, the gem that we looked at yesterday, point is 5% gold gained has a truly negligible effect on Coinmaster. Remember, an additional 5% at the 21-minute mark if you're never in combat, that's 100 gold. It doesn't mean any. 45 gold at the 10-minute mark, it literally means absolutely nothing. So wealthy, hey, it really has a negligible effect on, absolutely negligible effect on Coinmaster. Now, what are some statements I will personally make, you know, in my opinion, justified by these findings here? Being in combat 0 to 40% of the time is realistic, in my opinion, for the off lane and for support, especially off lane. You know, you can pretty much sit there for a lot of the time. Yeah, you end up defending your tower every once in a while. But there's lots of time just kind of sitting there, going back to base, blah blah blah. And as a support, especially for them, this is very much the case as well. Maybe even more so, to be honest with you. The gold gained isn't much. We're talking 2,000 gold, 2 attribute points by the end of the match if you keep it on for the entire match. But remember, this is from a 1 attribute point card that you can. Besides taking up a slot and being a card that you could, you know, there's almost nothing to lose, and because of that, I think it's good value. It's taking up a slot in your deck. I mean, I usually have a slot or 2 that I can play with. It's good value. It's good value simply because there's almost no cost to it. Almost no cost to it most of the time. For low economy positions, it's a cheap way to supplement your income. Just because of what I said, there's almost no cost to it. Opportunity cost is very minimal. Like, you know, there's just it's great. Like, why not get 1,000 gold? Basically, if it's not doing any harm, like, why not get another 1,000 gold? That's almost the reason, really, for it. So, if in combat, and this is my final statement here, if in combat for more than 50% of the time, especially as a carry and a jungler, perhaps even as a mid lane, getting another card might be more useful. That 1,000 gold you would have put into Vitality, I mean, maybe, yeah, you're getting it anyways. But maybe there's something more useful. Maybe. And that's why I say might be more useful. Yes, you're still gonna get gold. And yes, if you are in combat a lot of the time, you know, and it'll take you to the, whatever, 15, 18 minute mark to get something like an actual attribute point out of. Maybe. I mean, maybe you can go for it anyways. This one, I think, because it has such a low opportunity cost, a low cost period, there's almost no cost to it, really. I mean, I guess why not? Just know that if you're in combat for more than 50% of the time, it drops off in its payback really quite substantially. Just be aware. And if you're like, oh, do I pay 1,000 gold to get that attribute point, to get Coinmaster? If you're on the fence about it and you're in combat a lot of time, it's really not going to hurt you overly much in the course of the game. So there you guys go. There is Coinmaster. It's looking pretty good because of its incredibly low cost. I think it's looking pretty good. I love Coinmaster on a lot of people. I mean, I just sit there. I just farm last hits. I freeze my lanes, especially as a mid laner. I just freeze my lane, make the enemy mid laner, you know, overextend, easy ganks for my jungler. I love it. In the off lane, I mean, obviously it is amazing. It's support. This is amazing. A little bit greedy, but I mean, I don't know. I really like it. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Tomorrow is Highwayman. The next day after that is all of the gold cards put together, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'll tell you that. So there you guys go. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of Coinmaster. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. You guys like this content, especially if you found it useful. Please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. If you would like to support me on a regular basis, please head on over to my Patreon account where you can make a pledge to help me do what I love. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.